So here we are again. Thank you so much for your kindness in the logistical factor of that experiment. I'll do it again, but it'll be a little more elegant from my point of view. So if the feedback was the instructions weren't clear, I've worked that out. So, okay, Ed has just given me a cue, which is homepage. And what was the question you asked me? Because that will help me answer it.
The question that I asked Fleur was, why are there so many pictures of artwork on the Box Biz homepage?
So the reason is because I've worked with artists for 8 years, and about, I think, 8 of them, there's a number of them who have stuck with me. Thank you. A number of them are in the room. You know what? They're experts at using the website. They have hundreds of pieces on that website. So what happens on our website, the current version, it is the homepage selects randomly products, which is what you sell or what you offer in terms of services or products, randomly every 24 hours. So if there's disproportionate amount of work on there, it's going to come up a lot on the homepage. So if you want to be featured on that homepage and you have products and services that you offer, you need to upload it to the website. If you don't know how to do it, you received emails. If you've lost the emails, there's videos. If you can't find the videos, give me a call. I will turn up and I will show you how to do it. And I ask you to do that. I would really appreciate you doing that, because currently our homepage does look like an art gallery, which is no disrespect to any artist. And I am never going to ask an artist to take work off. Because what needs to happen to balance it out? New stuff needs to go on. So, if that's important to you, and remember, I think I'm not communicating very well how powerful our website is. Our website is an e-commerce website. That means if someone goes on there, clicks and pays, the money goes into my trust account instantly. So if you want to sell stuff online, just go on the website and upload some stuff. We have got one health product selling every single week to no members. He is selling to the general public through our website every single week, which is not great stats for him because he sells huge amounts. However, that's the opportunity there. If you need me to help you, I'm available. I want to help you. Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
So, now, because I said to do that because I knew I'd forget. So he's not really heckling. He's the two hecklers are now in the front row together. We need to split them up in future meetings. So, we are here tonight though because we have an expert guest speaker being Sue Papadoulis. She knows her stuff in publicity because she's an ex-journalist. She's also gone to the dark side of PR, and those are her words. And so she knows a thing or two on how to get in the media for free. But she's a very clever lady. I've known her a very long time. A lot of you will know I'm her national event manager for her seminar events, her half-day events. So I know her very well. And she is the real deal. She's authentic. And you know why? One of the reasons why she is so successful, because she is, and if you haven't worked that out, then, you know, hopefully you'll realise that this evening. Because she doesn't just offer the same thing every single time. And I can tell you, I've been in how many hundreds?
Every single time.
Every single time. And she's changing things and she's doing things differently. And one of the things that she's come across by watching her students, the people that go through her courses, is by getting in the media and doing certain things that they are getting to the number one on Google overnight for free. So that's what Sue Papadoulis is going to share with us tonight, so please make her welcome.
Thank you, Fleur. Sure. Fleur's just going to change the presentation. Delighted to be here. I have spoken here a couple of times in the last couple of years, so really happy to be here, really excited that Fleur invited me back, really excited to be a member now of Out of the Box Biz. So some of you... So some of you are former clients of ours and have heard me speak before, so I am going to start off by talking a little bit about getting publicity, because there's two parts to this story. There's first of all getting publicity, and there's using that publicity to get to number one on Google. So I couldn't kind of lop off the first bit. So I'm going to talk a little bit about getting publicity to start with, especially those who've never heard me speak before. That will be very relevant, and then we'll get into the Google stuff. So is that cool with everyone? Yeah. Good. All right. So who would like to be in the news? Raise your hand if you'd like to be in the news. For the right reasons. Yes, good. All right, what I'd like you to do is to take out a pen and paper. You will be taking lots of notes, so do get ready, get your writing hand ready. Is that a bit feedbacky? Yeah. Maybe Peter can do something amazing about that. What I'd like you to do is to write down your number one publicity goal. So if you could get any publicity for you and or your business, where is that? Which newspaper, which TV show, which radio program, which blog, which magazine, what is that? And write it down. That's probably better. Yeah, is that better? Can you still hear me? Yeah. Yep. Okay, it's always interesting for me to do that exercise because a lot of people have no idea. They look at me like what? Never thought about that before. And other people write down something very quickly. So it's easier to get publicity if you know where you want to be. So if you really want to be on Sunrise and you have that as a goal and you write it down and then you take action to get there, you're much more likely to get publicity in a program like Sunrise and get the benefit also of them being on their website. And that's one of the biggest benefits then, is being on their website and being able to get a link from the Sunrise website back to your website. And that's what we're talking about with how you can use media to get to the number one spot on Google. So what am I talking about when I mean publicity? I'm not talking about advertising. I'm not talking about you spending money on an ad in a local newspaper or a magazine. I know there's a fellow here who does magazines. Is he still here?
Steve Wright.
Steve. He's left. Okay, so I can bag out advertising as much as I like. Phew, okay. It's on video, that's right, damn it. Thank you for reminding me. I'm not talking about you spending money on ads. So who has spent money on ads in local newspapers? Yep, and what, Ian, did it work for you?
No.
No, and that's generally what I find is you need to spend a lot of money or be very niche. Like be very, very niche. I think Steve Wright has a magazine on pool renovation. So you might get your target market by being in a magazine on pool renovation because only the people who are renovating a pool are going to read it. But if you're advertising in your local newspaper, then that's not going to work. You need to spend a lot of money. So it's stories about your business. It's actually news stories about your business on TV shows like The Project, like A Current Affair, like Today Tonight. One of our clients a couple of weeks ago had a 13-minute story on A Current Affair. National TV program, 13 minutes. That was half the show. I've never seen that before. Usually they're only 3 or 4 minutes long. So, those possibilities are definitely there. Radio. Radio's one of the most used media in the country. 90% of Australians listen to radio every day. And anywhere there's talk, in the breakfast program on the FM stations, or all through the day on 6PR or 726 WF, there's opportunities for you guys to be interviewed. So it's getting yourself onto those kinds of outlets, as well as newspapers like the Brisbane Courier Mail or the West Australian or the Australian, magazines, business magazines or women's magazines, men's magazines, health and well-being magazines. It's about getting stories about your business into those kinds of outlets, and online. And online is where it's all heading. In the media, everything's heading online. The media itself is moving online. And with that comes some great potential for us to not only reach our exact target market, but get links from their websites to our website, which is one of the best things you can do to increase your search engine rankings. So publicity is, first of all, There's 5 steps to it actually. The first step is to identify a story about you and or your business. So I'm going to explain a little bit about that in a second. Contacting a journalist and telling them about your story, which you do through a press release. The appropriate way to contact anyone in the media, including online media, is through a press release. Getting your story broadcast or published for free. So there is no money changing hands. Interestingly, when I was chatting to Steve in that networking thing, I was interested to know about his magazines, obviously, and he only does stories about people who advertise. So you have to spend money on advertising in order to get the story. So I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about you just getting a story because it stands on its own merit. And getting links from the media, so your web rankings increase. And the last one is the most important thing, which is making profit from your publicity. Why are we doing this? We're a team of journalists in Australia. We're the only company of our kind in Australia. There is no other company of journalists here teaching small to medium-sized business owners how to go about getting publicity. So there's a couple of other ladies on the screen there, Liz on the left and Oriana on the right. Some of you know Liz, who've been in trainings with her. She's based here in Perth. She used to work at West Australian newspapers and some regional newspapers and Resources Media. Oriana worked at the Australian newspaper and the Daily Telegraph in Sydney before she joined us. So we've all got at least 10 years experience of being journalists. And we all got to a certain point where we decided that it wasn't a particularly nice job anymore. And we feel very blessed actually and very excited to be sharing our message with people like you guys, because we feel like we've almost had a second chance at, our career, doing something much more positive now, using our skills for good rather than evil, which is what a lot of being in the media is about. There's a lot of negativity involved in that. And we've all got stories, shocking stories, about, being in that situation. Oriana tells a story about being an ambulance chaser when she first started. And an ambulance chaser is exactly what it sounds like. So she used to get to work her shift started at midnight on a Friday, and she worked through to 9 o'clock in the morning. And she's in Sydney, so she'd have to go to King's Cross, wherever there was awful things happening, and chase around behind an ambulance trying to take photographs and see what was happening in the ambulance to get a story. What a horrible way to live. She didn't last very long in that, and she moved into feature writing with Qantas magazine and National Geographic and so forth. And I have similar experience, having been a journalist here for 10 years and also over in London for a couple of years. And when I came back from London, I had all this international experience and I got the best job you can get, which is to become news editor. So I was news editor of 6PR and 96 FM. So a lot of responsibility. I was pretty young, I was 28. And at that point I really started to think about what I was doing, because I had responsibility for everything that went to air. And if there was a problem or there was a mistake or there was someone upset, the buck stopped with me. And there was a couple of things that happened that really changed my whole life. And one of them was a phone call that I took after I had read a news bulletin. So I read a news bulletin on 6PR and, just did 4 or 5 stories, didn't think too much about it. And one of the stories we did was about a traffic accident. So there'd been a big accident somewhere in Perth. So over the course, I read a bulletin every hour for 5 hours. And over the course of that day, that story developed. So it was much like the traffic. Did anyone see the traffic accident yesterday on Tonkin Highway, where the family got smashed and there was a lot of publicity around that? It was that kind of accident. So it was really big. It was a very big deal. So the first story was about the traffic that stopped the major highway. The next story was about the fact we knew it had been a fatal accident. The next story was we knew that it was a child who'd been killed. The next story was police released the name of the child who'd been killed. That was the last story I did, because when I did that story, I just did it as any other normal story, came out of the studio, and one of my staff members, who was 21, young woman who I'd employed because I felt like she was going to be this really go-getting kind of journalist, and she was absolutely that, because what she said to me floored me. She said, "I think there's some bitch woman on the phone." And I just went, "Oh, okay." Don't know why you're using language like that to describe someone who's rung up. Obviously they've had a bit of a argument or something. But I had a moment of thinking, I'm not like you. You know, I'm not one of you people who are going to be off being successful journalists. Even though I was at the time and her superior, I felt like I wasn't part of what she was. And the next thing she said really floored me. She said, I think it's the mother of the kid who was killed in the accident. So I had to go into my office and close the door and take that phone call. And as you can imagine, that was one of the hardest things I've had to do. This lady was absolutely distraught and really angry with me because I just released the name of her child who'd been killed as part of a news story. And I was legally able to do that because police had given that name out, but I couldn't say that to her. I couldn't say, well, you know, we could do this story because police released the name. I found myself with nothing to say. I had nothing to legitimise why I had done what I'd done. So I found the only thing I could say was, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And at that point, I decided to do two things. I decided to change the news policy of 6PR so we no longer release the name of people who'd been killed. Because I realised in that moment, it only hurt people. It gave me another 15-second story in my bulletin, but it hurt a whole lot of people. Imagine you listening to a news bulletin and hearing the name of someone that you knew had been killed, and the newsreader just said it like it was nobody's business. So that was the first decision, change the policy, and the second decision was to leave the profession. Because I thought, I can't keep doing this for the rest of my life. So I left and I went off, as Fleur said, and went to the dark side of PR. And I worked there successfully for a number of years. And along the way, I decided to leave work and, well, I didn't decide, I had a baby. So I went on maternity leave. It was kind of forced upon me. Destiny, yes. It was joyful terror, I describe it as. I was very excited, but I was absolutely terrified at the same time because I was a major breadwinner at home and I needed to keep earning money. So I realised very quickly that I was going to have to go back to work. And I was terrified of putting our newborn baby into daycare. She's now 8 years old, by the way. And going back to this job I didn't like. And the only option I thought I had, the only other option, and it was like stepping off a cliff, was to start a business. And that's the only reason I did it. And I'm so thankful that I did have that push off the cliff and take that leap of faith. But I understand if anyone's done that, how hard that can be. So I started a PR firm. That went well, but I've always wanted to do something else amazing, something else more meaningful, something else that's going to help people in a bigger way. So I started a website for women like me who had this fear of starting a business, and that was called homebizchicks.com. It was a membership website, and that website cost me a lot of money. It cost me $10,000 back in 2009, which I didn't have, by the way. I put it on a credit card because I just felt, this is going to be a good idea. This is going to work. Don't know if anyone's done that. Not really researched it too much, just gone, I'm just going to do this because my friends say it's going to work. All my friends were saying it's going to work. And unfortunately, for the first couple of months, it didn't. It didn't. I had no clients, and I remember getting very stressed out about that. But I managed to work out a way of getting that website and my idea onto a current affair. And that rocked my world. That completely changed my business. We sold $40,000 worth of products after that went to air, selling a $19.95 a month membership fee. Wow. And I realised then, I'd been a journalist, I'd been in PR, and now I was a small business owner on the receiving end, and what a difference that made to me. And out of that spun this whole thing. Once I realised that what I could do for myself changed my whole life, imagine if I could help other people do the same thing. So that's where this all started with homebizchicks.com. So we all have a common desire to move out of that negativity, that negative world, and a really big excitement about helping you guys do amazing things by getting in the media. And we see it time and time again. We see seemingly ordinary people doing extraordinary things in the media as long as they're prepared to take consistent and persistent action. That's what it comes down to, being willing to take that regular action. So I want to share with you just a couple of ideas quickly about how the media works before I move into the Google stuff. So there's always going to be the big stories of the day. Okay, there's always going to be the big story. At the moment, it's probably the Bali thing and particularly tomorrow and the next couple of days, that's going to dominate because that last legal thing is happening tomorrow in the courts in Bali. So we'll hear a lot about that. Those stories are interesting to us because they're shocking. Okay, we're shocked, we're appalled, and we can't help but notice them and get involved in them. So that's not our kind of stories, hopefully. Unless you've done something really bad, that's not our kind of story. Our kinds of stories are just useful pieces of information that an audience will find interesting and useful. Okay, so when you leave here, I want you to start noticing the media in a slightly different way. Pick up a magazine and have a look through it. Watch Today Tonight once and just see what kinds of stories are that they do. Most of them are how to do something, how to lose weight, how to cope with a summer heat wave, how to protect your home from storms. There's a million how to do something or others in the media, and that's where we come in. So a journalist needs you. That's the thing to remember. They're actively looking for stories all the time that interest their target market. And that surprises a lot of people. A lot of people think, we couldn't bother a journalist because they're so busy. They get inundated with people contacting them. Yes, they do, but they get inundated with people contacting with stuff that's not interesting to their target market. If you can match up your story to a journalist who reaches the same target market as you, you are likely to have something that's going to be very interesting to them. So a journalist needs you, they need your stories, and they need you to foster their career. And they improve their career with the stories they write. So if you can help them regularly with a new story, they're going to keep coming back to you time and time again. So if you can help them with an idea that's going to help their audience, they're going to give you publicity. But it's not about you personally. And this is where most people go wrong. So if you can just take away one little thing tonight from what I talk about, I really want you to hone in on this fact, that your story is not about you and your stuff. A lot of people think that when we contact the media, we need to tell them about ourselves, which seems, I can understand why you'd think that because you want to get yourself out there. But it's not about you, it's about the audience. Okay, I want to show you an example. This is the kind of thing that drives the journalist bananas. Real estate agent Jenny Smith is pleased to announce the launch of her new website, jennysmithrealestate.com.au. That is not interesting to anyone. And I like to apply the 10,000 rule. If 10,000 people do not care about your announcement, please don't announce it. It's not an announcement. It's not worthy of an announcement. So think about it. If you're launching a website, you're one of 3,000 other people that day to launch a website. If you're moving office, who cares? If you're changing the interior design of your reception area, nobody really minds about that either. So, and we kind of laugh at that and think, we wouldn't do that. I wish I had $1 for every time someone has said to me, I'm so excited to come to your seminar because I'm just about to move office. And I just go, good, come along, and then you'll see why that's not interesting. Okay, so that is not interesting, but a real estate agent has plenty of potential to be in the media. They've got lots of knowledge that can help an audience. So how about how to add $50,000 to the sale price of your home this spring? That is interesting. Okay, that is something that a journalist would notice, and we've made it seasonal. It's another big factor in getting publicity. If you can make things seasonal, tie into the seasons, it gives the journalist a reason to run it in the lead up to that season. So we could have had it without the reference to spring, and the journalist could have hung on to it for 12 months. But if we make it the tip specific to spring and we send it in the lead up to spring, they can only run it then. Okay, so just these couple of little things that you need to know that make all the difference to the outcome. That would have got publicity, yes. Okay, so you help a journalist with a good story idea that's going to help their audience. They will help you with a story, with some publicity. But you can't come at it from the perspective of yourself. So no sales letters, no brochures, no marketing speak, no words from your website. Don't use the words from your website in your press release because that all says promotion. So there needs to be thinking about story words, not marketing, and it has to interest their audience. So your job in this is to interest the audience of the media that much that it's going to attract more people to want to read, watch, or listen to that media. So is your story that interesting that someone's going to want to buy the magazine or they're going to want to tune into the radio program, or they're going to watch that TV show. That's your job as someone contacting the media. So that's what we're looking for from a journalist, that level of interest. Okay, so that was just kind of like a overview and a quick overview, I know, of how the media works, but I know some of you have heard me talk before, and if you want to find out more about actually getting publicity, then certainly we run seminars and things. I can talk about that at the end. But I really want to get into the online stuff because that's really why I'm here tonight. So being in online media can help you maximize your profits from publicity. Coverage in the media can certainly increase your search engine rankings, and it's all about getting links from the media. That's the key part. I'm just going to show you a quick case study so you can see what I mean. So a company called Universal Events, they run events all over the country, and they came to Perth, and they're often in Perth, but they ran an event about buying US property from Australia. That was what the event was about. So they set about getting publicity for that event. So what they did was they managed to get a half-a-page story in the West Australian newspaper about the topic of buying US property from Australia. Now, the story was not about their event. The story was about how you go about buying US property. So they gave away some useful information to the audience. That was why the story was interesting to the journalist. At the end of the story, though, there is what I call the call to action. Okay, so at the end of the story is the call to action, which is what we want people reading the story to do. And this is what we teach our students. You know, this is a key thing to driving more business. So the call to action says, Universal Events will run a free seminar in Perth, how to buy US property, on Saturday, July 23rd at this hotel from this time. For more information, visit the website. Okay, so that makes sense. Someone who is interested in buying property in America from Australia has read the article, and at the end there's a free event coming up. Well, of course, you'll probably go. If you're interested enough to read the whole way through, you'll probably go to the event. So they also managed to get it onto the west.com.au, so the West Australians website. So the story also appeared online, and they got a link from the West website to their website. So those two things, the URL in the newspaper and the link from the west.com.au, got them to the #1 spot on Google for the keywords buy US property from Australia. That #1 spot on Google led to a 50% increase in attendees at the event, who spent $50,000 at the event. Okay, so I see a lot of people getting publicity and not getting the profit from it because they don't do this extra stuff. They don't get a call to action in. They don't have anything to funnel people into in the first place. And they don't ask or negotiate with the journalist to get the story onto the media organisation's website. So there's a couple of extra things to do at the end of getting publicity, which can make a huge difference, $50,000 worth to the outcome. Okay, so let me talk about online media. So the media is definitely changing, and it's all moving online. And we have, that is actually good news for us, not so good for the journalists, because journalists are losing their jobs. There are fewer of them, but they're having to do more work, and there are less of them. The main gripe I hear from journalists who I'm still friends with, my journalist mates, they say, look, we just don't have time to go out and find a story anymore. We don't have time to be proactive. We can only react to people sending in press releases, which is good news for us. Okay, bad news for them, but good news for us. So there's 3 opportunities. There's online news, media organisations online, and blogs. Okay, so I'm going to go through these now one at a time. Online news. So an example of online news is Crikey, crikey.com.au. There's no hard copy magazine called Crikey, it's just online. Okay, but it organises itself much like a magazine would, in that it's got these different things here: politics, business, media, culture, technology. And it's got subscribe to daily newsletter. So as someone who's a consumer, we might like the way Crikey does their news, and we may decide we're going to subscribe to their newsletter, and we're going to opt for technology information and business information. And Crikey will then send that stuff to us, and we'll read it because we've asked to receive it, and it's interesting. As someone like us sending in press releases to Crikey, if we have a story that's technology focused, and we send it to Crikey and they like it and they run it in their website. They also put it into their newsletter and they send it to the people who've asked to receive technology information. So as someone sending in a technology press release to Crikey and they send it to the inbox of the person who wants to know about technology, you've just reached your exact target market. That is very powerful. That is more powerful probably than just being in a magazine. Now we have the potential through online media to go into the inbox of our exact target market. That's incredibly powerful and something that a lot of people haven't given a lot of thought to. Another online news outlet example is news.com.au. There is no hard copy, it's just a website. Media organisations online like Sunrise has the TV show, has the website where they show clips of what was on that morning on Sunrise. Sydney Morning Herald, the same as the west.com.au. So there's the newspaper that comes out once a day, and there's the website that's live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, the newspaper comes out once a day, and there's one story on the topic per day. The website is on all the time. So they can't just have one story now on that topic. They have to constantly update the story and the information. So there's this unquenchable thirst for more and more and more information, which is where we come in with great press releases. Blogs. Now, there are a couple of different opportunities with blogs. These guys are bloggers who work for a news outlet like skynews.com.au. So they act like a columnist would in a magazine. They are bloggers, but they work for a bigger media organisation. Then there are blogs on just about every topic you can imagine. So I would really encourage you to seek out the influential bloggers in your industry because they'll definitely exist. They may not have followings of 50,000 people. They may have followings of 1,000 people. They may have followings of 500 people, but those people may be your exact target market. So everything's very niche. So I've had a look at one particular area of specialty, and it's a big area that a lot of you would fit into, which is women's interest. Okay, so what are the blogs that women are subscribing to? And if your target market is women, then I would really encourage you to have a look at some of these. Before I mention that though, Huffington Post. Does anybody know about the Huffington Post? Yep, world's biggest blog. Someone was telling me they got a column. Oh, it was a lady in Melbourne. A lady in Melbourne who's done one of our trainings just got a column in the Huffington Post. So she's writing a regular column. World's biggest blog, more than 1 million comments per month. It covers all of the main topics that you would expect a newspaper or magazine to cover. And just by the by, it started in 2005 and sold in 2011 to America Online for $315 million. Don't you wish you started blogging a while ago? That was just one lady in her living room started a blog, and that's where it's gone. So women's interest. The biggest blogs in Australia that target women are Mamma Mia, Essential Baby, The Hoopla, Women's Agenda. Okay, they have a combined monthly audience of 4.5 million women. So if women are your target market, you need to be working the blogs as well as women's related traditional media. So while there are magazines like Woman's Day and New Idea, there's a much more sophisticated conversation going on in the blogs. Okay, there's the Women's Day New Idea, not particularly sophisticated. It's a lot of celebrity stuff, whereas the blogs are where women with brains are discussing issues that affect women. Not that I mean, I'm a big Fleur knows. I'll buy the 3 magazines on the way back from Sydney and get my fill of the Kardashians on the flight. But the women's blogs are where there is a sophisticated conversation discussing issues that affect women. So I would really encourage you to have a look at that. I know a lot of people here have women as their target market. Definitely look into that. And also have a look at blogs that would be in your industry. I just want to talk a little bit about the blogs because they are really, really powerful. So a blog is simply a website that's updated regularly. Okay, that's the official definition of a blog. It's simply a website that's updated regularly. And there are two ways that blogs can help you spread the word about your business. The first is you can have your own blog, and I would encourage you to do that attached to your website. You can have a blog and have a specific blog, or you can have a blog that's attached to your website. So you can look at your website and see where the blog is and click on that and go to it. The second thing is to approach bloggers to blog about you. Okay, so that may be something that you've never considered before, but it really is picking up speed, and it's one of those things that you could really be ahead of the pack and get some renewed buzz about you. I like to think about blogs as being buzz. One, two. And the media being, might be the battery going. So blogs is buzz, creating buzz around you, and the media is creating actual news around you. So why would you approach a blog? First of all, blogs link out. Okay, they definitely all link out to other people. The content is seen not only on their blog, but on the bloggers, that's not linking, but on the bloggers' social media as well. Okay, so not only will your stuff be on their blog post, but it also is syndicated across their social media. So bloggers, by their nature, have very powerful social media networks. They blog, but they also are on Facebook. They're also on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest. So whatever they blog about on their blog gets spread across all the other social media platforms. The benefit about doing that is that other people can then respond and react to what they blog about. So if a blogger talks about your product or service, and then they also link to and load it to their social media, that allows thousands of people potentially to talk about your product or service as well. So it's like this, domino effect of potential stories. And social media is certainly a very powerful influencer and a very powerful way of building your personal profile. Approach a blog, get familiar with the blog. Okay, so do some research, see if you can find the influential blogger in your industry, and then I'd subscribe to it. I'd start to notice what they're talking about. And see if your product or service is relevant to their target market. That's really important to make sure that there's a match between those things. So you wouldn't send or talk about, a baby product to someone who blogs about teenagers or something like that. So, okay. We all right? Develop relationships by commenting on their posts.
Okay, has that happened a few times?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah. I'll get it sorted.
Okay, shall I keep going?
Just keep going.
Without the mic?
Without the mic, okay. Where's the, you've got hands up, okay. Just keep going.
Okay. That's all right. I've been in a variety of microphone sailing situations, one of which was highly embarrassing. I think some people remember that story. I was speaking at a group in Sydney, a really big event. There was 400 people there, and the stage was kind of like, there's all the people up there and there's people back here. And I'm halfway through my presentation, I'm wearing a dress, so not like tonight I've got a shirt and a skirt, but I'm tucking the power pack. I had a dress, so I tucked the power pack into my undies. and I've got this like Madonna thing on my head. It was one of the first presentations I'd ever really done. Oh no, I was freaking out, as you can imagine. And Fleur was at the back of the room, and about halfway through the microphone failed. So I'm, not just fading in and out, totally died. And so I'm thinking, right, I'm going to have to go to the toilet now, take the power pack out of my undies so I can swap the batteries. And Fleur comes up to me and she said, "You're not leaving the stage because you're going to lose the room if you leave the stage." I went, "What do you propose I do?" She said, "I'm going to unzip your dress and take it out." So that's me. Such laughter. The guy who's running the event stood in front of me, and Fleur unzipped my dress, and everyone on here could see my undies. So microphones badly is not that, because I figure that's probably the worst thing that could ever happen.
But you didn't leave them.
No, I didn't. I got a standing ovation. Okay, let's get back to blogging. Right. So develop a relationship by commenting on their posts. getting under their radar. If you really want a blogger to blog about you, start interacting with their blog, start interacting with what they're posting about on a regular basis. Send an email asking them if they would like to review your product or service. Okay, so that's completely fine. They do review products and services all the time. Mention why you think it would be a good fit. So this is not just, here's my product or service, I'd like you to promote it please. Here's my product or service, I think it would be great for your audience because X, Y, Z. So demonstrate that you understand what they're about. Sometimes bloggers do take money, and it's a bit of an unknown entity at the moment because there's no hard and fast rules about that. So bloggers do accept payment from people wanting them to blog about their stuff. And how much you pay, there's no kind of set fee. You can't get a set fee. You have to have kind of a personal conversation with the blogger about what they're expecting. But I'm told that the ballpark, if they've got a blog that say has 5,000 followers, you're probably looking at, to ask them to review your product is probably about a spend of $700 and above. And if it's less than 5,000 people, it's probably under $700. There are bloggers who have followings of millions of people. And I know someone told me recently that for a sponsored post, which means it's obvious that they're reviewing someone's product, the minimum advertising spend is $50,000. So we should all go out and launch our own blogs, I think. Open up for advertising. So some of them don't demand payment, some of them, I guess that's a conversation to have. Some of them will just be happy with the opportunity to experience your product or service. So if you gift it to them, then there's a chance that they would review it as well. And just remember that it has to interest their audience. So finding bloggers. How do you go about finding these bloggers? You can do a quick and easy thing, which is to go to Twitter and go to that URL on the screen, twitter.com/search-home, and put blog and then your topic. So blog, graphic design, blog, coaching, blog, property development, whatever that is, and you will see who is a blogger pop up. Do the same thing on Facebook and LinkedIn, or you can use a directory. So there's a number of different directories that list bloggers. So you can have a look and see who's writing, you can see how many followers they have. Blogger Connect is a relatively new one. Catalog is one that it's paid, so that's kind of like a new type of agency where they're the go-between between people like you guys who want to be mentioned on blogs and the bloggers, so that you have to actually spend money to get a list. Blog Chicks is a directory of women bloggers. So there's some resources there for you to have a look at as well. So we'll put that down. Okay, so that's the blog aspect, and I really would encourage you to have a look at that. I'm going to get back now to the rest of online media and getting links. So publicity can do some great things. It can help refresh content on your website, and it can get you inbound links, because Google looks for a number of different things when they rank your website, and they keep changing the goalposts. So at the moment it's social media interactivity. So the more interactive you are on social media, the more likely you are for your website to be ranked higher. And it looks for regularly refreshed content and quality inbound links. And this is where publicity can help you. It can help refresh your content by repackaging a press release. So if you write a press release every month and you repackage it for new content on your website, you've just done what a lot of people never do, they just update their website. And you're looking for quality inbound links. So what is a quality link? It's not the links that someone who might do SEO work find for you. Those kinds of links are, kind of link farming. They're from lots of different types of websites. Quality links are either from government websites, so .gov.au. Very hard though to get a link out of government because they can't be seen to be commercial. But the other type of quality link that Google likes is from the media. Okay, so I've seen a case study where they've said that 20 links from the media has the equivalent search engine power to getting 20,000 other links. Okay, so you can spend money on having someone go find links for you, or you can get publicity and get the links that way. Okay, so the good thing about this is you can get a cascade of links. As soon as you get a link from a big media organisation, suddenly you get a whole lot of other people linking to you because they assume you must be good at what you do. So that could be bloggers, it could be smaller media outlets. Wow, it's against me tonight.
It's not you, Sue, it's not you.
Okay, so how do we get strategic with this? We select online media able to link out. So think about, which type of media could you put in that has a website, and do they link out? And if they link out and they meet your target market, then they're a possible target for you. Create content on an interesting topic for their audience. Put together a press release, send it to them, follow the process of sending it to them, following up the phone call, getting the story. The last two things are important. Create more relatable content on your site. So carefully repackage your press release and ask for a link without asking for a link. So you don't say to a website, a news website, could you give me a free plug for my website? Would you be happy to link just to give you a free plug? They're not going to do that. The reason they will link out, why do you think the reason is they'll link out?
More information.
More information, yeah. To give their audience more information. So if you can provide more information to the audience, then that's going to be the reason why they link out. Okay, we're back on. Okay, so let me show you how this can play out. We're nearly done. I know you're getting hot and a bit antsy. Were you hot and a bit antsy? Does anyone want to stand up? Jiggle around? Someone wants to... Okay, let's stand up for 30 seconds. Everybody stand up. And I want you to raise your hands in the air. Both hands in the air. And we're going to whoosh down on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, whoosh. I'm going to do it again. Hands in the air. 1, 2, 3, whoosh.
Whoosh.
Okay, sit down. Sit down. All right, we're nearly done. We're nearly at the end. So just going to show you what this can actually play out for, what you could achieve. Daniel Phillips runs a ghost tour company in Sydney, Sydney Ghost Tour. And he got himself onto Channel 10's breakfast show on TV. And while he was on the breakfast show, his URL, sydneyghosttour.com, was on the screen. That's gold. To get yourself onto national TV and get your URL on the bottom of the screen, sensational. He then got himself onto Channel 10's website. So they ran the story on the website, 10.com.au, and they linked to his website. Fantastic. Then they posted about it on Facebook, Channel 10 did, and they tweeted about it on Twitter with links to his website. So all of those things got Daniel very excited, and he put this whole big thing on my Facebook page, which is very hard to read. But what happened was basically his business went from the bottom of page 2 to second on page 1 in 5 hours without doing anything else, just getting those links. On Bing and Yahoo, other search engines, he went from page 6 to second on page 1. And the people who hold the number 1 spot, because he's getting to number 2, the people who are on the number 1 spot are a multinational tour company. And Daniel's Mr. Sydney Ghost Tour. He's a one-man band. He works out of his garage. He leads the tours. He books people into them. He does the bookkeeping, does everything himself. And now he has the potential to knock off this multinational tour company who spend probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on their marketing. And you don't think he feels pretty damn smart and pleased with himself? He tripled his inquiry rate in 48 hours. So his business, his tours are now regularly full, and that ends his daily grind and struggle. Because when I met him, he was at the end of his tether. He said to me, Sue, he came along to one of our seminars, and he said, Sue, with this one-on-one chat at the end, and he was kind of welling up. And he said, if this doesn't work, if publicity doesn't work, I'm shutting up shop. I'm giving up because I can't do this anymore. I said, Daniel, you've got a great story. You've got great passion for what you do. Take the leap of faith. And he did, and he just hasn't looked back. I think he's now in some reality TV show, last I saw him on Facebook. So he's just gone from strength to strength. So being in the media really is the perfect storm. Most people aren't using publicity. When I was a journalist, I never heard from you guys. We didn't hear from small business owners, ever. Very, very rarely. It was mostly big business and government organisations sending us stuff that we weren't particularly interested in. And that's the honest to God truth. You may get 400 or 500 press releases a day as a journalist, but 398 of them aren't particularly interesting because they're the announcement kind, or they're not interesting to your target market. So the journalists and bloggers are desperate for content. They're always looking for new content. Most people aren't doing SEO, certainly not using the media in the way that we just discussed. The results are there and it's transforming people's lives, like Daniel. So, $120,000 in publicity is very achievable for anyone in the next 6 months. Very achievable. I just want to close with a couple of parting thoughts and some words of inspiration. I know you've done very well to sit here until 9 o'clock tonight and you're looking a bit weary. So I just want to leave you with some uplifting ideas. I really believe that everyone has stuff to get over. Fears and limiting beliefs and limitations and self-doubt. And that's really what holds most people back, is those fears and limiting beliefs and self-doubt. And everyone has them. And I'm certainly no different. Just probably 5 years ago, just before I started this business, I was where you were, listening to someone else speak at a seminar, trying to figure out how I was going to make it work for me. And not quite 5 years, it's about 4.5 years down the track, we're $1 million business. And that's no amazing business skill set of mine. It's all to do with moving through fear. Because I've noticed that every time I moved through a fear, my turnover increased. Every single time. So every time I developed myself, my business expanded. And I've overcome a lot of fears to get where we are, and probably still more to come. And one of the fears I overcame was a really debilitating fear that stopped me doing a lot of things in my life. There was a number of things I would have loved to have done, jobs I wished I could have gone for, promotions I wished I could have gone for, which I didn't do because I had this fear. And I had it for 20 odd years in my career. And the fear was a crippling fear of public speaking. There is no way in a million years I could ever imagine coming here tonight talking to you guys, let alone standing on stage, taking my dress off in front of 400 people in Sydney. So I really want everyone I come across to play their biggest game. We only have one shot at this, so I want you to step up and play your biggest game. There's no benefit in you playing small. There's no benefit to you, and there's no benefit to your potential clients who you can help. We all have an amazing gift to share, and we have a responsibility to share it with as many people as possible. That is our responsibility. So being in the media is one of those ways to get it out there to as many people as possible. So I really encourage you to step up over your fears and play a bigger game by being in the media. This last little quote I saw on Facebook, which I love and I live by now: if you're interested, you'll do what's convenient, but if you're committed, you'll do what it takes. And that's the difference between people who live their ultimately successful lives and those who don't, is the willingness to do what it takes. Okay, I'm going to wrap up now. If you wouldn't mind, just 1 minute extra of your time to talk about a seminar that we have coming up, talking about how to get publicity. Is that okay if I do that? Yep. So it's called the Free Media Publicity Seminar, and it's going to show you how to get free publicity in traditional and online media and create more sales. So tonight we've really focused on the online, but this goes into a whole lot more detail about how to get that story in the first place. So we go through what you have in an exceptional publicity campaign, how to come up with at least 3 great story ideas during the seminar that people will love, journalists will love, what you need in a press release, the whole publicity process mapped out. We get into the SEO and the online media in greater detail, and we go into mindset, because that is one of the key areas for success in anyone's life. So we run them in Perth at Bentley Technology Park, which I know you're all familiar with because these meetings used to happen there. 8:15 till midday. It's normally $97, but tonight you can have the special of $79. I've got some forms here. Fleur, I might just get you to help me. They're in there. So if anyone wants to grab one of these and fill it out. So I'll give you the dates in a second. If you give it back to me tonight, you can have the $79 price. So that's only for tonight. So there's 2 dates, March 26th, which is a Thursday, and April 8th, which is a Wednesday. We do have 2 places left on March 25th. We have 1 place left on March 25th. Okay. March 25th. Okay. And then that one's full. I didn't put it up there because I only had 2 places left. So those are the dates. So I hope I have inspired you to step up and play a bigger game by being in the media. I really look forward to staying in touch with you guys through this group and also through social media. I think I'm friends with a fair few of you on social media, on Facebook, but if I'm not, feel free to send me a friend request, and if you have something nice to say about the seminar tonight, the presentation tonight, I'd really appreciate you saying that on my Facebook page. I'd really appreciate that. But more importantly, I look forward to seeing you guys in the media very soon. So thank you very much for having me along. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, Michelle.
Sue, you said that you overcame a fear.
Yes.
What happened? Can you give us a brief story of...
What my road to recovery from my fear of speaking? Sure. It took me about 8 months, and I realised in hindsight the decision to move through the fear was bigger than facing the fear. So I made a conscious decision. I'm going to move through this fear of public speaking. That was the first step. I decided to be gentle with myself, so not beat myself up about feeling like I couldn't do it. And wherever I decided to, I like to talk about it in terms of making decisions from where you want to be. So I just decided to make decisions from the point of view of I was a speaker. So I started putting it out there. I took opportunities to speak. If anyone said, like tonight, hand up and want to come up and do that, that's what I did. As much as my knees were shaking and my voice was quivering and I couldn't breathe, I did that. And the more I did that, the more it kind of just faded away. But it was a very conscious decision to make decisions from where I want to be. And I talk about that around mindset quite a bit, because we all have these boundaries around us. And if you can make a decision from over your boundary and just pretend that you don't have the boundary, suddenly in the moment you become that. So the more you do that, the more you become that. So I finally did get the invitation to speak, and that was at, some of you would know, Anthea Moffat, not Anthea Moffat anymore, but she's recently got married. She invited me to her event at Tech Park, and there were 70 people going to be there. But when I got that email, when she invited me to speak, I got so used to making a firm, fast decision, saying yes when I felt in the flow, when I felt like, yes, this is what I want to do. Because the more you leave a gap between when you make a decision and when you take action, your fear comes in. So as soon as I got that email, I just went straight back, yes, thank you so much, I'd love to speak. And as soon as I started behaving like that, I kind of stepped in front of my boundary. And the more I did it, the more the boundary just slipped away. So that's how I overcame it, yeah. You're welcome. Yes.
When you send off a press release...
Yes.
And you get a journalist saying to you that this has been handed to a reporter...
Yes.
Does that mean that you're going to get something or not?
I don't know. It depends. What I would do is ask the question. So if a journalist has come back to you on an email saying that, is that what happened?
Yeah. The one that you did for Mythics, I tweeted.
Oh, yeah.
You said,
Yep.
And I got a reply from a journalist saying a report we've delegated it to...
So, okay, you've delegated it to reporters. So that tells me that you didn't send it to the exact person who ought to have received it. So the way to go about that then is to find out who needs to get it. So ring reception and say, I want to send it to this newspaper. Can you tell me the name of the journalist who would write this kind of story and their email address, and send it directly to that person. So all is not lost. I would just go back and send it again, look through the newspaper, find the name of the journalist, send it to that person, and then ring 24 hours later to follow up with a phone call. Yes.
How much control do you have over the final from a blogger or the content going
I'm not sure about bloggers. I think if it's a sponsored post and they've been paid for it, you're pretty likely to get a favourable review, unless they really hated it. I don't know. There's not a lot of rules around that with blogging, so I guess it's a bit, have a look at what they blog about. Have they ever said something nasty about a different product or service, and then you might, then you'd be aware that they could do that. In terms of the story that ends up on a TV show like Today Tonight, if you follow what we teach in terms of the process, so coming up with a story that's going to interest their market, putting together the right kind of press release, sending it to the right kind of person, following up with a phone call, saying the right kind of things, doing the interview in the right kind of way, doing all those things, you'll end up with what you're expecting. It's difficult to control if they come to you. So sometimes people have been burnt by that. They might have been called up by a journalist, and then they've, the story's about something they weren't quite sure about, and they just asked to comment on one particular thing, and then you're not sure what the story's going to look like, and it could be something quite unlike what you think it's going to be, but it hasn't started with you. When you're in the driving seat, you have much more control over the process. Yep. No other questions? Okay.
Can we have a round of applause, please? Can we also acknowledge the supreme professionalism of this public speaker when we have lighting going out, we have multiple microphones not working, but did you still hear the content? Did she still deliver that to you? And I can tell you, for a woman who had a fear of public speaking, and I know this, some of you may not, we actually went to school together, and she had this massive fear of public speaking. What this lady does under those circumstances, and I've worked with a lot of speakers and a lot of performers from a performing arts background, she is the true professional. So no matter what happens, she will still deliver. But I mean that in terms of, if you decide to work with her, continue the journey, no matter what happens, she will deliver. So I now need to switch to a screen that I pretty much know what that screen is. So it's going to say to you, because I've got to do a whole technological thing, which I don't want to do right now, is you need to make sure you have at least one face-to-face meeting booked tonight with somebody in this room. You need to, a lot of people in this room have done Sue's seminar, but if you haven't, their invitation is there, and I would encourage you to take it up. You also need to know in your diaries that the next meeting is the 15th of April. There is a calendar of all 2015 dates in the booklet. There is, if it's not fallen out of the booklet, it's over on the counter. I have had multiple people say to me, "When's the next meeting, Fleur?" I'm just kind of like, it is the second Wednesday of the month. However, Easter and Christmas kind of jig things up a little. So the next meeting is the 15th of April. We have had a swap of speakers. So there are versions of the calendar where you're going to get public speaking Paula Smith next month. It is not. It is priority management who are doing time matters, I think. It's about email overwhelm. I'm so excited. The universe has blessed me in going, because I cannot cope with email, in bringing this forward 3 months. So that is the topic, be here. And the last thing I always say is network, network, network. So I invite you to stay in the room. Wine is here, Sue is here for questions. And if you are not a member and you have any questions about how Out of the Box Biz might work for you, I'm available for your questions. Thank you.